quiero compartir un capítulo de la Biblia que se encuentra en el libro de San Mateo. San Mateo, su capítulo 24.
The virtuous woman is one of the most powerful and enigmatic figures in the Bible, mentioned in Proverbs chapter 31 as a supreme example of strength, wisdom, and compassion. But what is behind this description? Is it simply an unattainable ideal or a practical and relevant guide for women today? In this video, we'll delve into the depths of this biblical text, breaking down each verse to understand who this woman really is and how her qualities are reflected in modern life. We will see that the virtuous woman is not just a model of perfection, but a real and accessible figure whose character impacts her family, strengthens her community, and above all, honors God in every aspect of her life.
La religión no salva, el que salva es Jesús, aquel que dio su vida en la cruz del Calvario, aquel que un día no le importó dar su vida en aquella cruz.
Before continuing, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so that YouTube will notify you every time we upload a new video. Let's get started. The book of Proverbs is a collection of wisdom largely attributed to King Solomon, known for his wisdom. Although not all of the Proverbs are from Solomon, the book reflects a high value on practical and moral wisdom. The final chapter, Proverbs chapter 31, is an epilogue that highlights an ideal figure of the virtuous woman. The verses 10 through 31 is an acrostic poem, meaning that each verse begins with a letter of the Hebrew alphabet. This not only highlights the perfection and completeness of the feminine ideal described, but also makes memorization and recitation easier. Now, in ancient Israel, social expectations for women included being household managers, mothers, and contributors to the family economy. The ideal of the virtuous woman in Proverbs chapter 31 is presented in contrast to the stereotypes of the time, showing a woman who not only fulfills these roles, but elevates them to an exemplary level. Dear listeners, let's explore together what these magnificent verses have to teach us. As we dive into their words, we will see how they offer deep and meaningful insight. Let's start by reading verse 10 and discover its special message. A virtuous woman who can find, for her value far exceeds that of precious stones. The term chayil in Hebrew is commonly translated as virtuous, but it implies more than just moral virtue. It refers to a woman of strength, courage, and ability. In the biblical context, chayil can also imply military valor and leadership ability, which highlights the multifaceted character of the virtuous woman. The author of the proverb exclaimed, "Who can find her?" This reflects the wisdom and depth of his observation on the nature of feminine virtue. There are many women in the world, and certainly there are many who are beautiful in appearance. However, the proverbist reminds us that few of them possess true virtue. Virtue, which encompasses qualities such as integrity, wisdom, and kindness, is much rarer than outward beauty. Therefore, finding a woman who embodies these qualities is a priceless treasure and a special gift from the Lord. Now, we are told of the virtuous woman. Her value far exceeds that of precious stones. The woman described in the rest of the chapter is rare and valuable, but her value, as explained in the following verses, is greater than her actions. Her value should not be reduced to the performance of these qualities. She is virtuous before acting virtuously. This virtuous woman is initially introduced in relation to her husband, highlighting how her character and actions positively impact their marriage. Let's read verses 11 and 12. Her husband's heart safely trusts her, and he will have no lack of gain. She does him good and not evil all the days of her life. Her husband has complete trust in his virtuous wife. This trust is not superficial, but deep and essential to the stability of the relationship. It implies that she has proven herself to be trustworthy in all areas of her life, whether in managing the home, making financial decisions, or taking care of the family. In ancient Israelite society, trust in one's wife was crucial, especially in a context where the management of the household and family resources often fell to her. Mutual trust was an essential pillar for a harmonious and effective marital relationship. This virtuous woman is not a burden or a heavy cross for her husband to bear. While many women may have caused problems and difficulties for their husbands, the virtuous woman stands out because, according to Scripture, she does good to her husband every day of her life. This not only underlines her constant dedication, but also her unwavering commitment to being a good wife and helpmeet. She never tires of fulfilling her role with love and devotion, always seeking the best for her husband and her home, which strengthens her marriage and makes it a haven of peace and harmony. Dear listener, let us reflect on how we can build relationships based on trust and mutual respect. The virtuous woman shows us the value of being consistent and reliable in our responsibilities. Now, let's look at the next quality of the virtuous woman: diligence and productivity. Let's read verses 13 and 14. She seeks wool and flax, and willingly works with her hands. She is like a merchant ship. She brings her food from afar. Women's work in the home and in the fields was vital in ancient society. The search for wool and flax and working with their hands were tasks that required special skills and dedication. Now, what distinguishes this virtuous wife is that she works willingly, and all her work is a joyful service. Her will, her heart is in it. The virtuous woman not only attends to daily tasks, but also looks for opportunities to provide more for her family, like a merchant ship bringing goods from afar. Let us continue reading verse 15. He rises while it is still night and gives food to his household and a portion to his maids. It was not uncommon for many families in biblical times to have servants or hired workers. The virtuous wife wisely manages and cares for such maids, showing her compassion and care even beyond her immediate family. This implies first that she cares even for the girls she serves, and second that she is diligent about her supervision. This act of sacrifice reflects their dedication and love for their home, ensuring that everyone is well cared for even in the most demanding times. Let us continue reading verses 16 through 19. He considers the field and buys it, and plants a vineyard with the fruit of his hands. He girds his waist with strength and strengthens his arms. She sees that her business is going well. Her lamp does not go out at night. She applies her hand to the spindle and her hands to the distaff. The virtuous wife is progressive, combining her creativity with hard work. She considers investing and uses the profits to improve her family and her future, in this case by planting a vineyard. The virtuous wife stands out for her strength, and she is strength in action. She uses her strength for a productive purpose. The idea of girding oneself, placing a strengthening belt around one's midsection, means preparing for some kind of heroic or difficult action. This virtuous woman sees that her business is going well. She is wise and experienced enough to obtain good materials and merchandise for her home. His wisdom teaches him to buy oil for his lamp, of such quality that it burns during the night and does not go out. He takes care to manufacture the best articles and to set a reasonable price to secure a ready sale. His products have a great reputation, and he knows that he can sell as much as he can. And he finds that as he pleases his customers, he increases his own profits. We are also told that she applies her hand to the spindle and her hands to the distaff. The virtuous wife knows how to use the tools and technology available to manage the home well. The spinning wheel is a stick or spindle on which wool or linen is wound to spin, and uses both hands to do the job well. The spike is the straight bar, and the axis is the round or circular part. The spindle and the spinning wheel are the oldest of all the instruments used to spin or make threads. Dear listeners, let us consider how we apply diligence and effective stewardship in our own lives. Are we willing to work with dedication in our daily responsibilities? Let's continue reading verses 20 through 22. She stretches out her hand to the poor and reaches out her hands to the needy. She is not afraid of the snow for her household, for all her household are clothed with scarlet. She makes tapestries for herself. Her clothing is of fine linen and purple. Here we see the generosity and compassion of the virtuous woman. In the culture of ancient Israel, hospitality and generosity towards the less fortunate were deeply rooted values. The virtuous woman extends her hand to the poor and is prepared for the cold seasons, demonstrating her concern for the community and her family. The virtuous wife is much more than a skilled manager or homemaker. She is also a woman of great compassion. He cares for and helps both the poor and the needy, doing more than just throwing money at them. He actually reaches out to them, reaches out to those in need. Her hard work was not only for her own needs and the needs of her family, she also worked to help the poor and needy. This was the hand that worked diligently in the previous verse with acquired skill. It is not the hand of a wealthy woman. She uses her labor in a charitable manner. She makes tapestries for herself. With God's blessing on her wisdom and diligence, the virtuous wife does good things for herself and enjoys the personal details of God's material blessing on her family. Her clothing is fine linen and purple. Fine linen and purple were luxury fabrics in ancient times, indicative of status and skill. The virtuous woman not only takes care of her home, but also demonstrates dignity and honor in her appearance and actions. Her ability to manage the household and provide the best for her family reflects her position in society. Dear listeners, let us reflect on how we can be more generous and forward-thinking in our communities. The virtuous woman teaches us to reach out to those in need and to plan for the future. Let us continue reading verses 23 to 27. Her husband is known in the gates, when he sits with the elders of the land. She makes cloth and sells it, and gives ribbons to the merchant. Strength and honor are her clothing, and she laughs at the future. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and the law of kindness is on her tongue. She considers the ways of her household, and does not eat the bread of idleness. The virtuous wife is such a blessing in her family and home that her husband is also esteemed and honored among the elders of the land. All this is the blessing of God that often comes to the wife who walks in virtue, wisdom, and the fear of the Lord. She is a loving wife and has a feeling for the respectability and honor of her husband. He is respected not only for the neatness and cleanliness of his person and dress, but because he is the husband of a woman who is justly held in high esteem. And his complete management of household affairs gives him the opportunity to devote himself to the civil interests of the community. She makes cloth and sells it. The wisdom and diligence of the virtuous wife leads her not only to provide for the needs of her family, but she also produces enough and of such great quality that she sells those cloths to the sellers, the merchants. She cares deeply for her family, but her mind and vision extend beyond them to the outside world, where she and her family benefit. We are also told strength and honor are her clothing. The fact that she is willing to distribute and sell the linen garments she makes shows that her first priority is not her wardrobe or what she wears. She cares more about the display of her character than the display of her clothes. As far as character is concerned, she is one of the best dressed, clothed with strength and honor, so that she may rejoice not only in the present, but also in the future. Now, the virtuous woman opens her mouth with wisdom. The description of her inner life continues from the previous verse. The virtuous wife has what is often described and valued in the book of Proverbs, wise words and words that show the law of kindness. Both his deliberate speech, he opens his mouth, and his spontaneous words, on his tongue, are marked by wisdom and goodness. She is not taciturnly silent, nor full of vain and impertinent talk, like many women, but speaks directly and piously as an occasion for herself. We are also told of the virtuous woman, and the law of clemency is on her tongue. This is the most distinctive excellence of this woman. There are very few so-called women administrators who are not masters of their husbands, tyrants of their servants, and insolent to their neighbors. But this woman, with all her eminence and excellence, was of a meek and quiet spirit, blessed woman. Consider the ways of her household. As a faithful guardian, the virtuous wife watches her family and its ways. The decision to watch so carefully means that she does not choose to eat the bread of nothing. She has an oar in every boat, an eye on every business. She watches and meddles in the carriages of her children and servants, and exacts from them strict conversation and growth in piety. She watches over the whole family, not the other way around as if she were in a watchtower. Dear listeners, let us consider how we can cultivate dignity and wisdom in our own lives. The virtuous woman shows us that true strength and dignity come from a life lived with purpose and wisdom. Let's continue reading verses 28 through 31. Her children rise up and call her blessed, and her husband also praises her. Many women have done good, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceitful, and beauty is fleeting. But a woman that feareth the Lord, she shall be praised. Give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her works praise her in the gates. A woman of such character and wisdom rightly receives the blessings and praises of her family. Both her children and husband not only see, but also speak of the blessing of the woman who brings such a blessing to her home. This is not only a description of the virtuous wife, but also an exhortation to the children and husband to bless and praise the mother and wife of godly character. Many women have done good, but you surpass them all. These are the words of a husband as he praises his wife with words that encourage, reward, and nourish her. Every home can have a wife and mother who surpass them all. Every husband can legitimately feel, I have the best wife, and the children feel, we have the best mom. King Lemuel's mother noted the fleeting nature of outward beauty and the deceptive nature of manipulative charm. In contrast, a woman who fears the Lord has a beauty that does not pass away and a charm that does not deceive. Let us note what the text says. Grace is deceitful, and beauty is vain, for it gives a false representation of the person, being often a cover for the most deformed soul and for many evil and hateful qualities. Physical appearance is not necessarily discarded. It simply does not endure, as do the qualities that the fear of the Lord produces. One who pursues beauty may very well be disappointed by the character of the beautiful person. Charm and beauty are not bad. They are simply inadequate reasons for marrying a young woman. The young man should first look for a woman who fears the Lord, and whoever finds such a woman should make sure that her gifts and achievements are not belittled. The woman who fears the Lord, she shall be praised. Proverbs establishes a profound connection between wisdom and the fear of the Lord, and closes its collection with a description of the virtuous wife as a model of wisdom. Beauty and charm, characteristics that reflect her genuine fear of God. This fear is not simply a superficial respect, but a sign of an authentic and reverent relationship with the Lord. It is not just about being busy with daily tasks, as Martha was in the Bible, but about walking in deep and constant devotion, as Mary did. The woman who fears the Lord embodies the character of the virtuous wife. Although the way this character is expressed may vary according to time and culture, the underlying principle is universal. God honors the virtuous wife, valuing her wisdom and diligence as some of the greatest blessings humanity can receive. This woman's true greatness comes not from self-centered aggressiveness or superficial external beauty, but from her godly devotion and commitment to God's divine purpose for her. Give her the fruit of her hands, and let her deeds praise her in the gates. This virtuous woman will be rewarded by the God she fears and rewarded for what she has accomplished for her family and for herself. While he speaks publicly of his piety and wisdom, and let his deeds praise him in the gates. For the wise woman and man, this reward is not their primary motivation, but rather the proper outcome of their life lived in fear of the Lord. The passage concludes by emphasizing that true praise comes from fearing the Lord and living according to his will. External beauty and grace are fleeting, but a life that fears Jehovah is eternal and true. Dear listeners, let us reflect on our own approach to spiritual recognition and worth. The virtuous woman teaches us to seek God's praise over human praise and to value what truly has eternal value. In conclusion, Proverbs chapter 31 verses 10 through 31 offer an inspiring portrait of the virtuous woman, a model of character and virtue that transcends time and cultural context. By following his example, we can learn to live with integrity, diligence, generosity, and wisdom. May each of us aspire to reflect these qualities in our lives, always seeking to honor God in all we do. If you are a Christian woman, aspire to become a virtuous woman, striving to live according to biblical principles of wisdom, dignity, and devotion will not only reflect your faith, but will also enable you to embody the qualities that Scripture describes as ideal for a godly life. The virtuous woman, according to Proverbs, is an example of wisdom, strength, and compassion, demonstrating a reverent fear of God that is manifested in all her actions and decisions. By seeking to be this virtuous woman, you not only honor God with your life, but you also become a blessing to those around you. And so we come to the end of this video. Thank you for being part of our channel. God bless you abundantly. Until the next video.